Have you ever been cast aside? Have they thrown you away like you were nothing more than an afterthought, like you were a broken toy, discarded and forgotten, left to rot in the dark? They didn't see you. They never saw the fire inside you, the ambition, the power, the raw potential that was just waiting to erupt. You were too much for them, weren't you? Too much for their fragile little world. So they pushed you aside, like you didn't matter, like your presence was an inconvenience. And now, as the dust settles and their lives fall apart, they wonder where you went, don't they? The ones who claim to be your friends, your family, or partners. They've turned their backs. They left you in the cold without a second thought, because you weren't what they wanted. You were the reminder of everything they feared about themselves. They couldn't stand it. You stood out. You challenged them. You were a mirror, and they couldn't face their own reflection, so they took the easy way out. They tore you down. They made you feel like you were nothing, like your dreams, your desires, your struggles were insignificant. But let me tell you something. That's their weakness, not yours. They tried to bury you in the dark, but they didn't know that the darkness is where the strongest things grow. The pain you're feeling, that's just the seed, ready to sprout. They tried to silence you, but they only made you louder. They didn't know they were creating a monster. A monster they'll beg to return. You were left in the shadows, unheard and unseen, but you're not alone in that feeling. Are you? Every one of us has been there. We've all faced that moment when we realized that the people we trusted most weren't there when we needed them. They let us fall. They turned their backs when we needed them to lift us up. And now, there's a void inside of you, isn't there? It aches. It burns. It's the sting of abandonment, the sorrow of betrayal. They were supposed to care, but they didn't. They broke you, or at least they tried to, but they didn't finish the job. You're still here, aren't you? You're still standing, you're still breathing. And now, as the dust settles around them, they're going to have to face the truth they never wanted to acknowledge. You are not what they tried to make you. You are more. So much more. You were a tower built on shaky foundations, weren't you? A structure of hope and dreams that for a time stood tall and strong. You believed in the people around you, trusted them to hold you up when the storms came, but the truth is, they were never the solid ground you thought they were. No matter how high you climbed, the foundations beneath you were cracked, fragile, destined to give way. And one day they did. The fall was inevitable, wasn't it? When everything crumbled, it wasn't just the walls that broke, it was your spirit. You fell, hard, and when you hit the ground, you didn't just feel the weight of your body colliding with reality. You felt the weight of everything that came with it. The crushing realization that you were alone, that you had trusted the wrong people, that the people you thought would be your anchors in the storm were nothing but loose sand, slipping through your fingers when you needed them the most. The isolation that followed, that was the hardest part. The silence, it was deafening, wasn't it? Like the world just went quiet around you. And in that silence, you heard your own doubts echoing back at you. You felt every insecurity rise up like a tidal wave crashing over you, pulling you under. You questioned everything about yourself. Was it you? Were you the one who was wrong? You were left to pick up the pieces, alone. No hand to hold, no voice to reassure you. Just the cold, bitter reality that you were on your own. And in that loneliness, it's easy to believe the lie they want you to believe. That you're worthless, that you don't matter. But here's the truth. The fall didn't destroy you. It was meant to build you. It was meant to show you just how strong you really are. They thought they'd break you with their rejection, but all they did was crack the shell. The truth is, they couldn't destroy what was already made to rise again. You are still here, aren't you? Still standing, despite the chaos they tried to leave you in. And that means something. They told you weren't good enough, didn't they? They told you that your dreams were too big for this world, that your ambitions were too lofty to ever reach. They laughed at your ideas, scoffed at your plans, and they whispered behind your back about how you'd never make it. You're just not cut out for this, they said. You don't have what it takes, they mocked. They planted those seeds of doubt in your mind, didn't they? And for a while, you let them grow. You let their voices echo in the back of your head, drowning out your own. You allowed their words to carve deep scars into your soul. They were the villains, the ones who made you question everything about yourself, who made you feel small and insignificant. But let me ask you this. Did they ever see your fire? Did they ever see the passion in your heart? No, they didn't. They couldn't, because they were too blinded by their own insecurities to recognize anything more than their own reflection in the mirror. You weren't a threat to them. You were a reminder of everything they would never dare to be. And so, they tore you down. They tried to break you. And then there are the ghosts of your past. the faces of people who should have been there for you, the people who claimed they loved you, but when the time came to prove it, they vanished into thin air. They disappeared when you needed them the most. Maybe it was a friend who turned their back on you, or a lover who chose someone else over you, or a family member who just couldn't be bothered to care. These people, they are the villains of your story. They made you feel like an afterthought. They made you feel like your love, your loyalty, your sacrifice didn't matter. But that wasn't about you. That was about them. It was their fear, their weakness, their inability to see your worth, and they projected that onto you, making you feel like you were the problem. They made you feel like you were the one who wasn't good enough. But let me tell you something. That was their lie, not yours. They didn't define your worth. You do. You've always been more than they ever gave you credit for. And now, in the silence of their abandonment, you are left to confront the greatest villain of all, the doubt they planted inside you, the lingering belief that maybe, just maybe, they were right. But we both know the truth, don't we? Like a drowning man grasping for air, your past mistakes pulled you under the surface, didn't they? Each failure, each misstep, each moment where you couldn't quite measure up, it all dragged you deeper into the darkness. You fought to stay afloat, didn't you? But every time you thought you might catch your breath, another wave came crashing down. Regret, self-loathing, doubt, all of it tangled together, suffocating you in a thick, unrelenting grip. You felt like you were sinking, slowly, drowning in the weight of everything you couldn't change, the things you should have done differently, the chances you missed, the words you wish you could take back, the people you disappointed. They were ghosts in the water taunting you, reminding you that you weren't enough, that you would never be enough. It's like the walls close in, isn't it? When you're stuck in that pit of despair, you can't see the way out. All you see are your failures, your regrets, and they're louder than anything else. You start to wonder if this is all you're meant to be, the person who tries and fails, the one who's destined to fall short. Every thought becomes a poison that seeps deeper into your soul, making you believe that you're broken beyond repair, that this is who you are now. But here's the thing, despair doesn't define you. It tries to drown you, to make you believe you're a failure, that the past will forever hold you captive. But what despair doesn't tell you is that it's just the breaking point before the breakthrough. It's the final test before you rise. You've been in the depths, haven't you? You've seen the darkness, and it felt like it would swallow you whole. But guess what? You're still here. The darkness didn't win. You didn't break. The haunting voices of doubt, regret, and self-loathing, they only have power over you if you let them. They try to bind you in chains, but you don't belong in that prison. Not anymore. The past, it's done. It's finished. And the only way out of this storm is to stop looking at the waves and start looking at the sky. You're not sinking, you're rising. In that pit, the light was no longer a flicker. It was a memory, an illusion, a distant dream that slipped through your fingers every time you tried to grasp it. You reached for it, didn't you? You tried to hold on to that shred of hope, that glimmer that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. But every time you thought you could touch it, it vanished, like smoke in your hands. Like something that was never truly meant for you. And the longer you're in that darkness, the harder it becomes to believe that the light ever existed. The struggle inside you becomes a war, doesn't it? A battle between giving up and pushing forward, between surrendering to the pain and finding the strength to rise. There are days when the weight of everything, the mistakes, the failures, the doubts, feels so heavy, so suffocating that you can't see any way out. You start to ask yourself, why keep fighting? What's the point? Every step feels like a 1,000-pound burden. Every breath like a struggle. You look around and all you see are shadows. Every door feels closed. Every path feels blocked. The light is nowhere. And in that moment, when everything inside of you wants to quit, when the pain and the exhaustion have worn you down to nothing, that's when you feel like you're losing yourself. You forget who you are. You forget what it feels like to stand tall. You forget what hope even looks like because everything you thought you knew has shattered. You feel like you're disappearing. The darkness doesn't just surround you, it starts to consume you. It pulls at your soul, gnawing at your spirit, until you wonder if you'll ever escape it. But here's what you need to hear. That moment, that's not the end of you. That's the test. It's the point where you either let the darkness swallow you whole or decide that you're not done yet. It's the point where you make the choice to rise, to fight, to find the light, even if you can't see it yet. You don't need to know the way right now. You don't need the answers. All you need is the will to keep going, the strength to take one more step, even when the light feels impossible to find, because it's still there. It hasn't vanished. It's just waiting for you to believe in it again. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. What matters is the choice you make when you hit the ground. Will you lay there in the dirt, letting the weight of your failures bury you alive? Or will you stand up, wipe the blood from your hands and say, I will rise. In this moment, you are faced with a choice. You've been knocked down, battered by the storms of life, crushed under the weight of your own doubts and the cruelty of others. The pain is overwhelming, suffocating, and it's so easy to stay down. It's so easy to let the darkness consume you, to believe that you've lost, that it's over. But here's the truth. You are not broken. You are bruised, yes. You are weary, yes, but you are not beyond repair. The moment of pain, the moment when everything inside you says to quit, when every part of you feels like giving up, is the moment when you must choose who you will become. It's the moment you decide if you will be a victim of your circumstances or the hero of your own story. No one is coming to save you. There is no fairy tale ending where someone swoops in and fixes it all for you. This battle, it's yours. And you, my friend, you have the power to win it. The choice to break free isn't easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It means looking at the wreckage of your life, the pile of broken pieces that once made up your dreams, and saying, I will not be defined by my pain. It means standing up and refusing to let the past dictate who you will become. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become in the face of it. And in that moment, when you make the choice to fight back, you become unstoppable. The world might try to knock you down again, but every time you fall, you'll rise faster, stronger, because you now understand the truth. You can't be defeated unless you choose to be. So stand up, look at the world in the face and say, I will rise, because that's the only option left. You've come too far to go back now. You are about to become the person they never saw coming. You were born a lion, weren't you? A beast of strength, courage, and fire. But somewhere along the way, they made you believe you were a lamb. They made you believe that your roar was nothing more than a whisper, that your power was a fantasy, a mirage that you would never reach. They fed you lies, convinced you that you weren't meant to lead, that you weren't strong enough to take what was rightfully yours. But deep inside, you've always been a lion. That fire never went out. It was just buried beneath layers of doubt, beneath the weight of their words, beneath the shame they placed on you. You've been living in the shadows, haven't you? Hiding from the world, trying to convince yourself that the lion inside you didn't exist. But now, you can feel it. Can't you? That stir deep within your chest. That pulse of power that's been waiting, biding its time. It's starting to wake up. This is the moment of rediscovery. This is the moment when you remember who you are. Not who they told you to be, not who you thought you had to be to survive their world, but who you truly are. You've forgotten your strength, your resilience, your untapped potential, but that doesn't mean it's gone. It's always been there, just waiting for the right moment to rise, and that moment is now. It's like finding a hidden treasure, isn't it? A power buried so deep inside you that you didn't even know it existed. You've been searching for answers, looking for someone to hand you the key to unlock your potential. But here's the truth. The key was always in your hand. You never truly lost your power. It was never taken from you. You just forgot where you hid it. You buried it beneath your failures, beneath your self-doubt, beneath the weight of the world's expectations. But now it's time to dig it up. Reclaim what was stolen from you. Your confidence, your strength, your fire. They took your belief, your sense of worth, and made you feel small, insignificant. But they couldn't take your heart. They couldn't take your will to fight. They can't take what you refused to give away. And now, it's time to stand up and take back everything they tried to strip away. You've spent too long playing small, too long hiding in the shadows. The world is waiting for you to roar. Every time you looked in the mirror, that voice whispered, didn't it? The one that said you weren't enough, the one that told you that you would never make it, that you would always be less than you dreamed of becoming. It mocked you, belittled you, fed you a steady diet of self-doubt and insecurity until it became your truth. But let me ask you something. What if that voice was wrong? What if everything it ever told you was a lie? What if the only thing standing between you and your destiny was the belief that you weren't worthy of it? That voice isn't your truth. It's an imposter, a trickster, a shadow that only exists because you allowed it to. It's time to confront that voice, to challenge it and say, I will no longer listen to you. It's time to shut it down, to refuse its power over you. The longer you let it dictate your life, the longer you stay trapped in the prison of your own mind. But you don't belong in that cage. You have to face the truth. The real battle isn't out there in the world. It's inside of you. It's the war between who you've been told you are and who you truly are. It's the fight to reclaim your worth, your power, and your belief in yourself. You can't conquer the world if you can't conquer yourself first. So, what do? You slay the dragon inside of you, the one that tells you you're not worth the fight, the one that fills your mind with stories of failure, shame, and fear. That voice, that demon, is your greatest adversary. It will tell you to quit when the going gets tough. It will whisper that you're not strong enough, that you're not smart enough, that you'll never be enough. But you are. And that dragon, it's not as powerful as it thinks it is. You can slay it. Imagine yourself standing in front of it, the beast that represents all your self-doubt and fear, the thing that has held you back for so long. You might be scared at first, maybe even terrified, but you have something it doesn't: the truth. The truth is, you are capable. You are worthy. You are strong enough. You've always been strong enough. So take up your sword, fight back. When you face your inner demons head on, they crumble. They lose their power, because they were never real to begin with. And when you slay that dragon, when you take back the control it stole from you, you will stand taller. You will stand stronger. You will see yourself for who you truly are, a warrior, not a victim. And nothing will ever stand in your way again. The fire didn't burn you to destroy you. It burned you to forge you into something unbreakable. Every scar, every moment of pain you've endured, it wasn't a punishment. It wasn't a sign that you were weak or that you weren't good enough. It was the universe's way of shaping you, molding you, preparing you for something greater than you've ever imagined. Every struggle was a tool, every hardship a lesson. You've been tempered by the flames, hardened by the trials, and made stronger by the weight you've carried. It's easy to look at failure and see it as the end, to think that when things fall apart, it's a sign that you're not meant for greatness. But failure isn't the end. It's the beginning. It's the spark that ignites transformation. You don't become great by avoiding failure. You become great by rising every time you fall. Every time you stumbled, every time you were knocked down, you were given the chance to rise, stronger, sharper, more resilient. The fire doesn't break you, it refines you. Look at the strength you have now. Look at the wisdom you've gained, the resilience you've built. You didn't gain it from success. You gained it from surviving the storms. You are who you are because of everything you've overcome. And those moments of failure, they weren't failures at all. They were the foundation for the greatness that was always inside you. Think about it. A diamond is made through pressure. It's formed under the most intense heat, from carbon that once seemed ordinary. And you were ordinary once too. But every challenge you faced, every tear you shed, every time you thought you couldn't go on, was the pressure that transformed you. Now you stand in front of the world, and they don't see the fragile person who once doubted themselves. They see the diamond that has been forged. The world can't break you now. You've been through the fire, and you've come out not just unscathed, but transformed. Every painful moment was a lesson, every failure a tool for your evolution. You are no longer the same person you were when you began this journey. You are stronger, wiser, and far more powerful than you ever realized. The pain wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to build you into the force you are becoming. And now you're ready. You're no longer crawling in the dust. You've stood up. Your back is straight now, like a warrior preparing for battle, ready to face whatever comes next. The energy inside of you has shifted. Can you feel it? It's like a fire awakening in your chest, a surge of power coursing through your veins that you didn't even know was there. This is the moment where you stop surviving and start living. You've shed your old skin, cast off the person you used to be, the one who doubted, who feared, who couldn't see their own potential. That version of you is gone. What's left is something unrecognizable to the world, but to you, it's the truest form of yourself. The transformation is no longer a distant dream. It's here, it's real, and it's building momentum, like a wave gathering force before it crashes onto the shore. You've crossed the threshold. The struggle was necessary, the pain was part of the process, but now it's time to harness it. Every ounce of everything you've been through, every hardship, every lesson learned, is now fuel for the fire that burns inside of you. Look at yourself now. Do you see the warrior you've become? You were never meant to be anything less than extraordinary. You were never meant to hide in the shadows or shrink back from the challenge. You were born to rise, to conquer, to shine. You've faced your demons. You've broken free from your limitations. And now you stand with the power you never thought possible. You are unstoppable. What does that feel like? The shift in energy is undeniable now, isn't it? The person who was once overwhelmed by self-doubt is now a force to be reckoned with. You've transformed into the hero of your own story. You no longer feel the weight of your past dragging you down. You no longer allow the fear of the unknown to hold you captive. You are the one who shapes your fate. Feel that power coursing through you. It's time to take what is rightfully yours. The world doesn't get to tell you who you are anymore. You get to decide. What you went through, it didn't weaken you. It made you unbreakable. The storm didn't break you. It made you the storm. Every battle, every tear, every sleepless night, they weren't setbacks, they were foundations. Every struggle was a forge, every sacrifice a lesson that hardened you like steel. The pain you've endured, it didn't break you, it made you indestructible. You are no longer the person who used to tremble in the face of adversity. No, You are the force that others will tremble before. You've become the storm. They didn't see you rising, did they? They didn't see you grinding, pushing through the darkness, fighting when no one else believed in you. They didn't hear the quiet moments of struggle when you refused to give up. But now they'll hear your roar. Now they'll see you standing tall, unapologetically powerful, claiming what's yours with every step you take. The world will hear your roar because you have earned it. You have earned your place. Those who doubted you, those who tried to break you, they won't even recognize you now. They didn't see the fire that was burning inside you. They didn't see the hours you spent fighting battles they knew nothing about. But now you're standing in your power, stronger than they ever imagined. And that's when they'll hear it. That's when they'll see who you've become. The struggle didn't stop you. It didn't diminish you. It made you unbreakable. And now, you are the storm that sweeps through every obstacle, the roar that shakes the ground beneath your feet. No more hiding, no more second guessing. You are a force of nature. Your voice was silenced once. You were told to stay quiet, to blend in, to shrink back. They tried to silence you with their doubts, with their judgments, with their attempts to erase your worth. But now they'll beg you to speak. The silence they forced upon you, it's no longer yours. You've reclaimed your voice. And when you speak now, you speak with power, with authority, with the weight of everything you've overcome. You speak with a roar that demands to be heard. You speak because the world needs to hear you. The doors that were slammed in your face, the opportunities that were closed off, the chances that were stolen from you, they'll swing open now. The very doors that once shut you out will now beg you to walk through them. You are no longer the person who was denied. You are the one who takes what is rightfully yours. The ones who told you no, the ones who doubted you, they will see you now for who you truly are, and they'll watch as you step through those doors, confidently, without hesitation. Do you feel that? The doors are opening. The universe is clearing the way for you. Everything that once stood in your path will now move aside, because the energy you carry now is unstoppable. The power you've awakened within you, it doesn't just get you through the door, it makes the door open. You are no longer a visitor at the table. You've claimed your seat. It's time to take everything back. Everything you thought was lost, everything that was taken from you, it's time to reclaim it. You've earned this, you've fought for this. And now, the world will watch as you walk into your power, bold, unstoppable, and unapologetically yours. The doors will open, not because they're doing you a favor, but because they can't keep you out any longer. You are always meant to walk through them. You are not a person in search of victory. You are victory in human form. Do you understand that? You were never waiting for something outside of you to change. The change, the power, the victory, it was always within you. It was there all along, hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to awaken. The world tried to tell you that you needed something else, validation, permission, success, but what you needed was never outside of you. It was always within. And now, the moment of realization has come. You are not the person who searches for greatness. You are not the person who searches for greatness. You are greatness. They cast you aside. They abandoned you, rejected you, tried to erase you. But now they see who you truly are. The person they tried to break, the person they thought would fade into nothing, is standing before them in full force, and they can't deny it anymore. They can't ignore the power you carry. They see the warrior, the storm, the force of nature that you've become. Everything they did to you, everything they thought would crush you, it only made you stronger. It only made you more unstoppable. They never saw the power in you, not because it wasn't there, but because they were too blind to recognize it. But now the veil is lifted. They see you for who you truly are, and they can't unsee it. The person who once doubted, the person who thought they were lost, that person is gone. In their place stands someone who knows their worth, someone who understands their own power, someone who will never be pushed aside again. You've reached the moment of reckoning, the moment where you realize you were never lost. You were always destined for this. They thought they could break you, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to be anything less than extraordinary. And now, the world will know that. Now, you stand as proof that no matter how hard they tried, no matter how much they pushed you down, you would always rise. You are the embodiment of victory. They tried to bury you, didn't they? They thought they could bury your dreams, your voice, your very existence. They thought they could silence you, push you to the margins, make you disappear. But they didn't know what you were. They didn't know you were a seed. And now, you stand before them not broken, not diminished, but a tree too mighty to uproot. Your roots have grown deep, your branches stretch high into the sky, and the very ground beneath them trembles with your presence. You are no longer the fragile thing they thought they could bury. You are a force of nature. And now they need you. The same people who belittled you, who cast you aside, who thought they could erase you from the story, they are the ones begging for your return. They see your strength now. They see your power, your resilience, and they know that the world has changed. You are no longer the person they discarded like an afterthought. You are the person they can't afford to ignore. This is the moment of confrontation. The moment when they realize that they made a grave mistake. The moment when they see you for who you really are. Not the broken, defeated version they tried to create, but the unstoppable, unbreakable person you have become. They see you now, and they're begging for you to come back, to help them, to share your power, your wisdom, your strength. But you are no longer desperate for their approval. You don't need their validation. You don't need them to recognize your worth, because you already know who you are. You've already reclaimed everything they tried to steal from you. And now, as they come crawling back, looking for a piece of what you've built, you stand in the power of your own truth. You don't need their apology. You don't need their forgiveness. You simply stand, unshaken, knowing that you've already risen beyond them. They may need you, but you no longer need them. And that, my friend, is where your true power lies. You've become the force they never saw coming, the one they will never be able to control again. You are the storm they can't outrun. You are no longer their shadow. You are their storm. The world that once tried to push you down, to bury you beneath their expectations, beneath their doubts, beneath their limitations, now it trembles before you. You are the force that cannot be contained. You are the power that refuses to be silenced. And the ones who once thought they could control you, who thought they could decide your fate, they will now watch from a distance, powerless against the unstoppable force you've become. This is your final victory. You stand tall now, unshaken. The battle is over, and you have emerged victorious. Every doubt, every setback, every obstacle, it's all behind you. You are no longer the person who was lost in the dark. You are no longer the person they underestimated, the one they thought they could break. You are the one who has risen, who has claimed what is rightfully yours, and now the world is yours for the taking. Now, they'll beg for your return. The very same people who once cast you aside, who once turned their backs on you, they'll beg for a second chance. They'll wish they never cast you out, never thought they could live without you, never believed you were nothing. But you'll be too far gone. You'll be soaring higher than they ever thought possible, reaching heights they couldn't even dream of. And when they look up at you, when they realize the magnitude of what they lost, it'll be too late. You won't need them anymore. You will be the one that others look up to. You will be the one who sets the standard. You will be the one who defines what greatness looks like. Your victory isn't just in what you've overcome, it's in who you've become. The world now knows your name. They see you as you are, a force of nature, a storm that cannot be stopped. The ones who doubted you, who abandoned you, will now watch as you take your place at the top. And when they realize they were wrong, it won't matter, because you'll be too far ahead. They thought they broke you, didn't they? They thought they could destroy your spirit, erase your worth, and leave you in the rubble. But what they didn't realize was that they didn't break you. They made you a legend. Every attempt to tear you down, every moment of doubt, every betrayal, it all contributed to the story of your rise. You are not the person they tried to break. You are the legend that remains. Your transformation is complete. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances, no longer at the mercy of those who sought to tear you apart. You are the master of your own destiny. Every step you take now is in alignment with the force you've become, the unstoppable energy that pulses through your veins. You are a force the world cannot ignore, and they will be forced to reckon with your power. The world will look at you and wonder how you got here. They will ask how you survived the things they thought would destroy you. But you won't have to say a word. Your actions will speak for themselves. They'll see the strength in your eyes, the confidence in your every move. They'll see the warrior that you've become, and they'll know this was never about surviving. This was about thriving. This was about becoming the person you were always meant to be. The legacy of your return is undeniable. You didn't just survive the storm, you became the storm. You didn't just overcome your struggles, you transformed them into fuel for your rise. You didn't just find your strength, you became your strength. Now you move forward with unbreakable courage, with unstoppable power, and with a heart that knows no fear. You are the legacy, the proof that no matter how many times life tries to push you down, you will always rise, stronger, bolder, and more powerful than before. They thought they could break you, but in the end, they only made you a legend. And now, the world is yours to conquer. Now, you are no longer just surviving. You are shaping the world. You are no longer simply existing, you are leaving a legacy that will echo across time, inspiring not just those who witness your rise, but those who will follow in your footsteps. You are the trailblazer, the one who shows what's possible when you refuse to be broken, when you rise against every force that tried to keep you down. And now, your story will be the one that others look to for strength, for courage, for hope. You will be the one who inspires. Those who are still lost in the dark, still struggling to find their way, you will show them the way. Your story will be the light they need to see that there is another side to their pain, that there is power in their struggle, that their rise is inevitable. Your strength, your journey, your triumph will be the beacon that guides others out of their own darkness. You won't just be remembered for the battles you fought. You will be remembered for the lives you changed, for the hearts you lifted, for the hope you instilled. Your influence will ripple out, touching people you'll never even meet, inspiring them to rise, to fight, to claim their own destiny. The world will remember you not just as a survivor, but as the architect of change, as the one who refused to let their story end in despair, but instead wrote a story of victory, transformation, and legacy. And now you move forward, not only with the strength to conquer, but with the responsibility to inspire. Because you've shown what's possible. You've become the proof that no matter how dark it gets, there is always a way forward. You are not just leaving your mark, you are shaping the world, one person at a time. And this is your legacy.